and that's what we voted, that's what they had to vote at. And up till the last second, I just wasn't comfortable.
Okay, so you didn't understand that the board or the committee that was put together was where you hashed stuff out?
I thought, like I said, I thought it became board, as the mayor said, it became a board document. So I thought the board members would tweak it, if you didn't like something, we could say, hey,
We thought we had additional opportunity before it was put to a vote, and we evidently didn't.
So it was, okay.
and there's been things changed now that, that I brought forward. So I'm glad, that the language is getting more, more clarification.
But, okay, so there was a process for that, Joe, and the process was that it was presented as draft by the committee to the village board at the June 9th board meeting. And at that point in time, the board had 2 weeks to read the document over, have your discussions, bring your comments and whatnot back to the committee, or even to me to give to the consultants by June 23rd.
Well, I did. I met with you the day after that meeting.
Right, but all the stuff that you brought up afterwards was brought up afterwards. That was the time to do that. And at the June 30th meeting, when the document was approved to go to the county, you are saying as a board member that I'm prepared to send this document because the planning board and the committee, which included Kevin, was tasked with putting it together because I don't think you guys want to put it together, right? That's the expertise of the planning board. That's what we do zoning. So in most communities, that's the way it's done. The planning board or a committee, it just happened to be mostly planning board, was tasked with putting it together. And then we handed off to you, which we did on June 9th. And that was the time frame in which all these questions were to come to light. And that was all in the meeting minutes. That was all in the meeting minutes. That's why we were all very taken aback when you and Paul voted no. I was well aware that Emily was probably going to vote no. She was very clear in her stand. But all of the minutia happened after our contract was up. That's when the minutia happened. The minutia should have happened before that. You had the document on June 9th. There was plenty of time. If you were not comfortable with the document as a board, that is the time to say, I'm not comfortable with this, and I do not want to send this to Genesee County at this point in time. That we need more time. Like, that's the responsibility of the board. But that didn't happen. So when it got sent to the county, as a committee member, because it's a village local law, it's your law. As a committee member, I assume that you were satisfied with the document. And that when there were only 3 comments in the first public comment session, and changes were made, and I talked to you, Joe, on your changes. Paul didn't give me any comments. I talked to Emily. Changes were made with Emily's. Then we had the second public hearing before the vote, and there was 0 comments. Not 1 comment at that public hearing. So there were no comments. So to me, that was the last, it's been to the county approved it. We've had 1 public hearing, there were 3 comments. The board had at that point in time now, over a month to review the document, and there was no public comment by anyone, not a board member, not a resident, nobody. So that to me said, nobody had any further comments on the document. That is the time to do it in the public comment. If you were not comfortable with the document before making a final vote, that ended our contract with them. They fulfilled their contract. The planning committee, the committee, the planning board, and Kevin, we fulfilled our obligation. And that's kind of, for most municipalities, that's where it ends. When I called John and Molly the next day, they were in utter shock. They have never had this happen before. Never at a final vote has it been turned down. That's not where it happens. And that is where the frustration comes. Because all of these things, it could have been, you have every right as a board member to make as many changes as you want. If you had a lot of input that you wanted to be in the document, I would have suggested that you be at the meetings. Now, Joe, you were at a number of them. Paul didn't come to any, the mayor was there, Emily didn't come to any, Kevin was at everyone as well. If you wanted to be at that level, putting the document together, everyone knew when the committee meetings were. So it is a shock that the timeline wasn't followed, and it's just adding additional expenses for the village at this point in time.
I guess that was gonna be my second question, was where's the money coming from for probably, I would realistically expect $8,000 to $10,000 additional dollars for the consultants. Where's that coming from? Does anybody know? Or if you wait till the bill comes in?
No, I believe, Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes from, since it's a village, document, since it's a village document, primarily comes from the general. Does the electric or the sewer contribute?
No.
So it's just the general, which is where your tax dollars go.
That makes me really sad.
So what are we not going to be able to get with our tax money now that we've been kind of irresponsible with the money the contract that we signed when I hope we knew, by the way, if everybody doesn't know me, I'm Tim Quirk, 33 Clinton. I hope that we knew at the time when we voted it down that we were now going to accrue additional fees. I was at some of the meetings, partially because of my interest, partially because I'm on the zoning board of appeals. So I kind of thought, well, if I'm going to have to hear an appeal, it'd be good to understand the thought process of what made the zoning laws. But this, and I've missed a lot this summer because my business has been busy, thank God. But this kind of money is not. This is not just petty cash. So it's disappointing. I feel our taxes are being spent irresponsibly now, because I saw how hard the committee worked at the meetings and the consultants worked at the meetings, and I believe they earned the money in the contract, and I'm sure they'll earn the money that they make now. But that's, where's that money? What are we not going to get now because we have to pay the consultants more?
I understand your question. We don't know yet what the impact is going to be, what the total impact will be. And I'm going to say this here. If we had any idea that the vote would have turned out the way that it would that night and people were not ready, we would not have voted. We would not have voted. And I think we believed, as we went through the end of the seeker, we went through the resolution, which was pretty lengthy. I got tongue-tied through that too. And there was no indication, there were no comments at the public hearing to say otherwise. So we went and had the vote. That's all I can tell you.
And I guess I get concerned when I hear you say, I thought we sent to the county, and I thought the board was going to be able to talk. That makes me feel like we're going to put everything out to public, and then we're going to do the closed door and really decide how it's going to be. And not that I don't believe that was the intent at all, but that's certainly how it appears. And
No,
so,
it went to the county, and I have my schedule here, and we met after that with another public hearing with that document. With that document.
right.
It went to the county as it should. That is a local law. It has to go, obviously, and be seen by them. So they saw it, and you usually have it back for a public hearing, a final public hearing. We had 2, we only required 1, we had 2, now 3. At the second public hearing, a lot of times if the county does have modifications or recommendations, that's where whatever board, whether it be planning or a village board, they can deal with, assess, do they agree, do they disagree? That's why it gets sent off to the county first before the final public hearing.
So I guess, maybe I said that wrong. When it was sent to the county, it was everyone's impression that it was the final, and that was going to be what was going to
Except
pass?
for the public hearing.
Except for the final.
Right, if there was more public comment.
That makes sense.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, so we have the document that was approved
Actually, we even went one step further than that. I mean, we are very close with the county planner. He has helped the village of Bergen immensely over the years. And I spoke with Felipe prior to, as soon as we got what we considered to be a draft that was worthy of going to the county. And he asked me to send it in advance, and he would be happy to give us his comments. So I sent him the draft, and he sent back his comments, which were a typo. And his interpretation of a graph, he preferred a different type of graph. And those were the two comments that he sent back, prior to actually the county planning board seeing it. So we got a double look at the county.
If I may, just a comment. So while it's unfortunate to waste taxpayer money, especially repeating procedures, I will say that I do agree with Mr. Chimina's bias for action to be able to make a decision that he felt was in the public best interest, considering everyone who came out for this third meeting to discuss their thoughts on the matter of zoning. I feel like it was the right decision to make, even if it did allow for additional redundancy. That's the kind of leadership that I want to see from village officials, even if at the last minute, even if it is inconvenient, to be able to make the decision that, maybe we need to take a step back and get some additional public input. So while it is an extra cost to the taxpayer, I don't necessarily think it's a waste, because look at the amount of people that we brought to the meeting to get, into discussion with local government. And as inconvenient as it is for everyone else here who has to deal with the repercussions of that, ultimately, I believe as a taxpayer and a resident that was the right decision to make. And I wish that all of our leaders would have that sort of leadership, to be able to make that sort of decision at the last minute.
I would like to comment on that, please. I disagree intensely. All village officials, trustees, mayor, administrator, people on the planning and zoning board, what have you, and even the office workers, you all have an obligation to be fully informed before you make correct decisions for the good of the entire community. And if you have been fully informed and taken the time to ask questions prior to, I do believe that your vote would have been different. And you did not have the information you needed, and you did not give out correct information, and you did not vote for the intention of the community. You could not give me any good reasons why you voted no. It was just one issue, Chad. The only question, the only thing that you said was that you didn't want that one trailer owner to have to go through several $1,000s worth of expense to have to move his trailer according to what the wording. And if you had read the zoning laws correctly, you would have realized that did not even come into play. And furthermore, you said you never talked to the individual, so he didn't bring up a concern, it was your concern. So I'd like to know, the owner of record of that property is your cousin, and it may not still be the owner of the property. And you also own property on that street, so you're very well aware of the layout and what could and could not be done. And I'm so totally disappointed because I've known you for probably close to 50 years. And you did not do your job. And for everybody else on this board, not solely to zero in on you, but everybody else that takes the position of a public official, if you are not fully informed, you are guilty of malfeasance. And I remember asking on candidates night, did you truly know what was involved in being a trustee? Why did you want to be a trustee? Could you give me some idea of where you were coming from, why you wanted to see a better village, what you were going to do to make the village better? You could not answer me. Paul, you could not answer me. And on the night of the vote, when I asked you a question why you voted no, your only comment was you felt another board member had been offended. And I immediately asked her that she felt the way no. So again, you were not voting in the best interests of the community. Maybe trying to respect somebody is very laudable, but that was not a reason voted. Why am I not on any boards or anything? I've been on boards in the past, but I know my limitations, and I would never have run for trustee because there's so much to know and to be involved, and it's so time consuming, which is what I questioned you two about, and you could not answer me. And I've never gotten a direct answer from any of you, and I go to most meetings. I'm an unbiased person. I love this village. I've been here for 50 years. And if you truly, truly, truly have a commitment to what you're doing, then you need to be better informed, you need to give out correct information, and you need to be available, and you need to take responsibility for the things that you don't do correct. And we all make mistakes. Number one, I am. We all make mistakes, but you need to be accountable for your mistakes and not put it up on somebody else. And when you give out information that's not correct, and then you deny you've done it,
Like,
that's not being accountable.
answer me that. Answer, what?
Not what, speaking to the
Hold
people.
on,
What,
hold on.
Excuse me, Dave, I'm sorry.
what, I love this question. What information did I give out that wasn't right?
Talking to the people in the trailer about their trailers. You were not giving them the correct information. How do we know that? How do we know that? Because those people called up to get the correct information. I've said more than I probably intended to say, but all I would say to the two of you, to all of you, is that if you truly, truly want to be part of the village ruling committee, so to speak, then I would request that you take the time, which I know is a great deal, because I have been on previous boards and I know it's involved with that, but that you take the time to really get all the correct information first. And as board members, you have direct access to the mayor, to the administrator, to the planning board members. You can ask questions anytime. It doesn't have to be at a meeting, and you just need to make that determination. And if it's too much and you can't do that, then have the integrity to say, this is not, I don't think that this is something that I'm capable of doing or want to do, and remove yourself. Thank you.
I want to answer first.
Oh,
In that meeting, yes, I brought up that one, but I said there were other people.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
I'm
And
sorry.
Excuse me.
And you said, well, where are they? And I said, they're not here because they don't know about this.
You talked to us after the meeting, Joe.
No, that's
Never
during the
said-
meeting.
You never said that.
Yes, it was.
And you never talked to the gentleman.
We're not going to resolve
Where,
this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I got a chance to defend myself here. Misinformation. What misinformation am I giving to the residents? You tell me.
I gave them incorrect information about the trailers and how they should be
Well,
on the property.
Who?
I'm not giving you names.
Well,
Joe,
then-
you know we've talked, you had a list. You had lists of all the people who own trailers.
That's right, because I knew it was going to affect a lot of people in this village. Now,
Joe,
you're going to say I'm giving out false information. Tell me who I gave that false information to.
You know. You know who you did.
I met with Robin.
All of this could have been.
I met with Robin at her house.
No, you didn't.
Well, and with your husband.
You came to my house to talk to me, and I had a really long, hard week, and I was actually sleeping, and Ted told you I wasn't available. What you told him was that any apartment we put in would be limited to 25% of the square footage of our home,
Right.
which was absolutely incorrect because it's going in the garage.
No. Did you read this?
I did.
Why is it out of there now? Number 3's been omitted.
Because it was redundant.
It was
It's in another
redundant and
place.
it's covered in the building code.
It's just moved, it's not moved, it's stated in several other places in
That's it, we're adding space to our home. The garage is a
This
separate
says
home.
any AUD.
And what?
This says any AUD.
In the primary
Can
residence.
be, no, it doesn't say that here.
It says in the primary dwelling.
Now it's being eliminated here on this page.
Because you asked for that, Joe. That's why we eliminated it. It's covered somewhere else. She can still put her she could put her accessory dwelling unit in there.
Then why, well, I'm going by this.
Because
page.
you asked for that to be eliminated, so we eliminated it.
Right,
Because
but I'm going by this page, and that's what I'm getting my information from. It says, I'm trying to look up and down.
But what you don't realize is that I had been having like a year and a half worth of conversation with Renee and going to these meetings and asking,
and Molly and John.
yes, with Molly and John, would this be permissible? And under the language they wrote, they said, yes, it would be permissible, because it's
Again,
not the primary
I'm going
residence.
by this page, the way it was worded in the draft that we voted on, and it said any AUD can only be 25% of the primary residence. That's what I went by.
It's
I'm not
inside the
deliberating.
primary residence, but it's out, so it's out, Joe.
I'm just saying, don't make it sound like I'm going around giving out false information just arbitrarily. Because I'm not doing it.
I would like to address what Mr. Salentano had to say, very quickly, as a resident. I agree with you, Mr. Salentano. I am happy to see all these people out. I wish all these people came to all the meetings. I really do. The residents who came were fantastic. We wanted the input. You came to a meeting. You came to one, right? But the time to do that was during the process. That's why there's a contract, and that's why there were deadlines, and that's why things went to the county. I agree. I'm glad that everyone got involved, and maybe this is a wake-up call for all of the Village of Bergen to start checking your newsletters and checking the website and doing all these things. Because I agree with you. It's great to see everybody out. I love seeing everybody out. It's the Village of Bergen. I love everyone's opinions. Everybody has a different take on things. We would have been thrilled if people came to our meetings. Thrilled.
A quick clarification, what's the definition of a legally binding notice from municipality? Just because I'm not sure that email really qualifies for that.
Wait.
Nor sending a mailer with an electric bill.
Wait.
Because I don't think I had seen a dedicated mailer from the village on any particular event.
Okay,
that
so
came
we are
separate from the bill.
We are legally bound to public notice according to the reorganizational, to public notice in our newspaper, which is the Batavia Daily, and it was noticed. Every hearing was noticed in the Daily. What?
How many people get a paper?
That, I'm just telling you what we are legally bound to do, okay? It is also, if you go online, you can get it. It is also posted on our building. It is also posted at the library. It is also posted at the post office. We try to post everything we can in the newsletter, but sometimes the newsletter doesn't go exactly with what we're doing in the village. Okay, sometimes we posted this in our newsletter. I don't know if anybody got their electric bills today. If you did, I'm sorry, because y'all ran your air conditioners. But it was in there. So we notice it every single place. We are legally bound, then some. People know that there's public hearings, but they choose not to come to them.
Well, a lot of people seemed awfully surprised is what I will say.
I think that people need to, where else would you like us to post them? How else, without spending taxpayer money, would you like us to, that's some of the questions that came out of the
Well, I
open
think the
house.
fact remains he asked what's legally, and you've
Completely.
proven that the village has met their legal obligations.
Yes, we have, Tim.
And beyond.
And beyond.
And beyond.
So,
Is it on the website?
yes, everything's on the website.
You have access to the website?
I do, but that also requires that I go to the website unless I check that official public notice.
Well, it
Isn't
is.
something that has to be actively seeked, I'm not sure of the tense,
So,
by the resident.
It's also on Facebook. We always put our
Yeah.
notices on Facebook as well. And I think that a lot of people are on Facebook because there are a lot of comments on Facebook.
Still, I'm not sure if that fits the legal,
It does,
We
completely.
did that. And all of those other places is beyond the requirements. So there were plenty of and you can argue that all day
Oh, I'm
long.
not arguing, I'm just
But-
seeking clarification.
We
Yes.
did what we needed to do and went well beyond that.
Yes.
Well
Yeah.
beyond that.
So I agree with you and I disagree with you. I agree with you that it's great that people came out and talked about their issues and whatnot. I disagree with the time frame because it's costing us money as residents. And as a resident, and I'm taking my planning board committee chair hat off, I'm not happy that it's costing money, additional money. There's a lot of things in the village that we could use that for.
And believe me, I agree, I don't like it when my taxes go up either. But at the same time, maybe we should solicit public input to see what residents would like to see in terms of notification. Just because, I mean, from an information security standpoint, losing an entire email list of residents, which you're trying to give legal notices
That
to.
was not our fault. That was not our
Okay.
fault. You work with computers, I know you do. And I know that you know that things happen and
Oh,
things fail.
But no, believe me, I know things happen. I'm just,
Let's move on from this. Let's move on.
my
from
last
this.
comment
We're
is
gonna
that I
agree to
think that we
disagree,
should
I
solicit
suppose,
input
but
from the
our
public
liability.
to see how they would like to be notified.
All right, if there's anyone else that wanted to comment about, otherwise we're gonna move on with our meeting. Okay. All right, under, we have trustee concerns. This is a section where trustees can notify of any concerns they have at this particular point in time. Kevin, is there anything that you want to share today?
Just a couple quick things. One, you mentioned the Main Street grant and how we're going through the clear process. It's almost over. It's worth remembering that it took, 10 years to get the grant. Trying and being rejected, trying again, and trying again, and trying again. Took a lot of effort. The other thing was, I read in the Batavian today about the county water agreement, and I brought this up before, and they're talking about how they want to level rates throughout the county. And I know that we are under we're in a special situation.
We have an agreement from the county.
Just want to maybe get clarification from them what that means for the village.
Nothing.
Nothing, as far
No.
as should
Our law, everything's fine. We are not part of that.
Because every time you read about it, they say all the towns, all the
Yes.
villages, so I just want to be sure.
Yeah. We went into contract with Monroe County when the landfill came in. Yes, it wasn't, 100% what we wanted, but it gives us Monroe County water, and which is wonderful. We don't have to be part of this whole water district, water project that's costing communities millions and millions of
None of these
dollars.
surcharges.
And surcharges and all of that. So we're exempt from all of that, so if you see it in the paper, no worries, we're good. Okay, rules will stay the same for us.
That's it.
Joe, anything? Commissioner? Paul, anything?
No, I don't have any concerns.
Thank you. Okay, in new business, Monroe County Water Authority easement. It was in your packet. Work needs to be done on the water line in our parking lot. So we need to approve this easement from Monroe County Water Authority. Let me just read it quickly. It says, whereas the Monroe County Water Authority, the Water Authority, intends to construct a water main, the project, to replace the Water Authority's existing water main within the parking lot at 0 Buffalo Street. And whereas the acquisition of one 20-foot wide easement by the Water Authority is necessary for the construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of the project. And whereas the one easement necessary for the project is located along the north side of Buffalo Street at the property known as 0 Buffalo Street, it's the parking lot, tax account number, et cetera, et cetera. This acquisition is necessary to allow the completion of the construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of the project, which will provide potable water supply and fire protection to the district's property owners, and the property owners have agreed to voluntarily grant the easement to the Water Authority. And whereas Section 1096-6-A of New York's Public Authorities Law requires the Water Authority to obtain the prior approval of this acquisition by the resolution of the village board. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the village hereby approves of the Water Authority's voluntary acquisition of one easement over property located at 0 Buffalo Street, tax number, in accordance with 1096-6-A of the New York Public Authorities Law, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be provided to the attorney of the village, the Monroe County Water Authority, and the village of Bergen. So they're asking us to accommodate the work that they need to do in our parking lot.
Make a motion.
Joe, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey, who water line? Okay, zoning board of appeals, alternate appointment. Heather Painting, who was a member of the planning board for a long period of time and was a very active member, needed to resign because of her work schedule and so on. There was an alternate position open on the zoning board, and she would like to be appointed to that position. So I would like to present the board with her name, Heather Painting, to be the alternate on the zoning board of appeals. Motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Heather Painting to the zoning board.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Yay, Heather. She's going to be a very good addition.
She'll be excellent. She was great on the planning board.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. Number 3 is the American Rescue Plan Act, and I alluded to that when I gave my report before. Unless anyone has any questions, we can move on from that. Okay, I am working on gathering as much information I can as to how it works and what kinds of projects we can do, how that money can be spent. And I'm hoping by our next board meeting, there will be a proposal. Okay, and take a look at what kinds of things we might be able to accomplish with that. Next is the proxy for the MUA annual meeting. And, okay, it's right here. Whenever we send anyone as a representative of the village to any of the MUA meetings, we need to pass a resolution acknowledging that person as the delegate or the proxy for the village of Bergen. So in this case, I don't read the whole thing, but the meeting, today's meeting, we would like to appoint Nick Hoover, is one of our linemen, as the representative, as the delegate to the MUA annual meeting, which will take place, I know it's coming soon, August 31st to September 3rd. So is there a motion to designate Nick Hoover as the MUA for the annual MUA delegate?
I'll make a motion to appoint Nick Moore.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Kevin, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Nick will be going to that and represent the village of Bergen. Any old business? Anything anyone would like to bring up?
May I make a comment, please? I'd like to apologize to everybody here for losing the camera. It's not normal the way that I conduct myself, express my concerns. So I do regret that, but I stand firm on what I have to get to say. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that.
All right, if there's nothing further, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Seconds. All those in favor say aye. Carried. Thank you everyone for participating. Appreciate you being here. Our next meeting should be at 8 o'clock.